Welcome back to Fast Market, everyone. Kevin Hinks back here for the middle segment of our show. I'm welcoming back Alex Coffey and bringing in now the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Mr. Andy Swan to the show. He's going to look at Rivian and cover as much as you can, basically, Andy, on this new stock that just IPO'd yesterday, but it's got this whole market on fire today, Andy, and it's got all the cars, every car we're going to cover today on fire as well. What do you got for us on Rivian, Andy? This is about as cool of a day as we can get with the energy that this company has put in this market.
Yeah, electric company puts a lot of energy into the market. I think that's pretty good headline, and definitely reflective of what's going on. With Rivian, it's fun to see an IPO of this size, this level of excitement and participation be successful, and that's clearly what's happening here. Now, the knock, of course, against Rivian is that they haven't sold any cars, and that the company is worth more than Ford and GM, with over $100 billion valuation at its launch. But there's definitely more to the story. At LikeFolio, we track consumer mentions, and that building demand that people have for the vehicles that this company makes is undeniable. There is a growing contingent of people that can't wait to get a Rivian truck. Part of that contingent is Amazon, who wants 100,000 of the vehicles. And a lot of it is just because the company's cars look cool. They are high performance electric vehicles. They remind people of Lexus or of Tesla, except for Tesla's a little bit more the luxury brand, whereas I think Rivian's kind of going more about being the granola type of brand. But you can see consumer demand kind of off the charts, especially lately. This IPO's brought a lot of actual marketing of the vehicles to play. And overall, consumers are really impressed with what they have seen of this company in terms of the aesthetic of the vehicles, the performance of the vehicles, the interior, the exterior. This company looks like the real deal to consumers, and they're willing to go out on a limb and pre-order, which is a big deal for a company like this. Kind of a pre-revenue company that gets a huge valuation. We've seen this a lot, but this is one that from a LikeFolio perspective, the consumer demand and enthusiasm for this is high enough to say, I don't have any idea what the company's worth, but I do know that there's enough consumer enthusiasm for their product that something good is going to happen over the next 2 years in terms of the overall business.
Yeah, I think that's a really great breakdown, Andy, in terms of some of the excitement around the stock price, although, like you said, they haven't actually, to my knowledge, delivered any vehicles. Also being said, though, Andy, is it's hard not to talk about Tesla when you're talking about Rivian. Tesla unveils the Cybertruck. Looks like a video game vehicle to me. It looks amazing, but as far as a target demographic, the everyday, middle America landscaping company that drives a pickup on a regular basis because it's needed for their job, I don't see, and I could be wrong, the Cybertruck attacking that market. But this looks like the everyday pickup truck. This looks like it's going to be able to meet that demand in a part of the market that is, quite frankly, the most expensive, with oil at $80 a barrel, the one that is guzzling the most gas. I mean, I used to have a pickup. I know how much gas that those vehicles take. So this looks familiar. It seems to, and hopefully, achieve the same level of performance and potentially cost saving if energy prices continue to skyrocket. And then, of course, you can sprinkle on kind of the ESG. We feel a little bit better because we're not putting as many, carbon emissions into the air. But all of this seems to, they're going to a market that hasn't quite been touched with this electrification yet.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think, for us, there's a huge tailwind in electric vehicle demand that we see from a macro perspective. It's up 166% year over year in terms of people wanting to buy an electric vehicle of some sort. That's not true for the rest of the market. It's, we're more than doubling each year. I expect that to happen again in 2022. So there's a booming market for this type of vehicle. Now, you mentioned it's more along the lines of an everyday Joe pickup truck. The counterpoint to that would be Ford. Their F-150 Lightning literally is that pickup truck with a different power structure. That looks really cool as well. So I think ultimately, whether or not the IPO investors in Rivian, they're having a really good result early. I don't know what the company's worth. I don't think anyone really does. But the winners here are going to be consumers, because you're not just looking at Tesla anymore. You're looking at competent, old school companies like Ford bringing really cool looking cars. You've got an upstart like Rivian coming in with a massive balance sheet and big time backers in Ford and Amazon. And then you've got Tesla, who has already proven that you can scale these type of companies really quickly. And so I think ultimately the consumer wins, and we'll let these companies fight each other for who wants to provide us with the best experience and utility.
All right, Andy, I have two questions for you. One of them is a much easier question for you to answer, and that is, one is going to be, we're going to touch the third rail today on Fast Market. So the first one is easy. The first one is, so this company IPO'd yesterday, but you've got data going all the way back to the beginning of 2019 in Rivian. So you've been covering Rivian as a company before it IPO'd. You've got years of data on this, not just a couple of days of data, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We track everything. If we see something looks like it's headed to IPO, we try to put it into our system and get that consumer demand data, that consumer sentiment data before it becomes a publicly traded company, so that we know what we're talking about when we come on Fast Market with you.
All right, now here's the question that's going to touch the third rail. And the topic of this question is, are we screwing this up, Andy? So I always tell a story of a smart monkey versus a dumb monkey, right? Smart monkey doesn't let go of one branch till he has a hold of another. Are we screwing this up, and we are destroying gas-powered cars before we're ready to fully embrace electric cars, Andy? And that's why gas prices are where they are, right? Because it's become taboo to talk about a gas-powered car, and everyone is ready for an electric car, but the industry isn't ready for everyone to have an electric car, Andy.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but that's a good position for a Rivian or a Tesla or even Ford to be in. If you're going to be a market leader in something that, the demand for what you're making far outstrips your ability to supply it, then really it is a race to scale. And I think Tesla's proven that they can scale. They've done it consistently pretty well. They've had hiccups, but they've done it pretty well compared to expectations. And then when you've got something like Rivian, I think the real story here is the fact that Amazon trusts them enough to invest, to buy into such a large stake and to pre-order so many vehicles tells us that the people that have seen behind the curtain of Rivian are confident in their ability to scale and confident in the technology that they've built. And so when I see that, that gives me confidence as both a consumer and an investor in the company. And I think that's kind of the bigger story here is, yeah, they haven't sold any cars yet, but the fact that Amazon, Ford, and all of Wall Street's ready to go in when they haven't sold any cars yet tells me that something very right is going on behind the curtain. You don't get a $100 billion valuation for nothing, despite the cheap money that's floating around the market right now.
Andy, I love the point about the backers. I don't think we can understate that enough, because who knows what the valuation would be, or they're even in this position if they don't have the big money of Amazon and Ford really, laying some authority to this and giving some credence to what they're doing, as you said. So let me ask a very similar question to what Kevin did, but in a different way, because I always come back to the iPhone whenever I think of technology and its kind of evolution. The first 3 iterations of the iPhone looked really good on commercial, and they looked really great whenever you saw it, but you talk to the user and they really, they had issues. They didn't work that well. iPhone 4, I believe it was, I think when I first adopted it, it really started to take on to this experience that it has now in terms of iOS and the consistency from device to device. They make new additions, they give more features, but the core crux of the iPhone and the concept, they proved it by about the 4th iteration. Where are we in terms of EVs if you're using kind of that iPhone, 1 to 15 or wherever we're at now in terms of where this could go?
Yeah, I think we're getting really close to that iPhone 4. I'm a Tesla owner myself for now 18 months, and it's been an awesome experience. And I can't see myself really going back to kind of the normal car. But I understand what you're saying, because when you first got the iPhone 1, you were like, okay, this is really cool, touch and all this stuff, but I can't copy and paste text. Like, it was missing some really key elements, and that was the case, I think, with Tesla from 2013 until probably 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. But I think Rivian shareholders, Rivian themselves, they have Elon Musk and Tesla's very, very patient consumer base to thank for the fact that Rivian can come to market like this, having only delivered 40 cars just to employees, because what it has given them the opportunity to do is see the mistakes that others have made and iterate and innovate on top of those shoulders, just like Samsung and others could come to market with phones very similar to or even better than the iPhone once they saw how users were using them and the problems therein. So I think Rivian kind of being the second big mover, I know there's some others, but they're the second big mover, and they really have benefited a lot from that past decade of innovation and early adopters.
Andy Swan coming on Fast Market and basically saying the early bird may get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese, Andy. I think that's what you just alluded to there in terms of looking at these cars. Andy Swan, thank you as always for coming on and bringing your data on to Fast Market. We appreciate it. Now, Alex Coffey and I